What's going on, Workforce? Brian here. Do the White Mage changes have you down? So let's talk about it, and let's talk about you. So in this video, we haven't done a community feedback in a while, and while this isn't going to be a full community feedback episode because we're just going to be kind of targeting one topic, and that's the nerfing of White Mage in Stormblood, we want to cover a couple things. Namely that the wonderful people in Reddit have translated all the tooltips and the actions that were shown in the video. And so we're going to cover the cross-roll actions for healer and what they're showing as a part of the tooltips. Now, keep in mind, this is fully work in progress. Numbers and subjects, all that can change, probably will change, but this should give us a better idea and understanding of what these abilities do as opposed to just speculating on our part. And then after the actions, we're going to jump into your comments and see what you guys are saying about what we know about White Mage and the changes coming in Stormblood. There's some positive, there's definitely some negative, and it's all justified, but let's discuss it. So first things first, we've got the healer roll cross actions. You got Cleric Stance, which the change is that it is a cross roll action and it's no longer that stance. So in case you missed that news, it is now a general damage increase buff. Now this says it's 5% for 15 seconds with a 90-second cooldown. So that's just going to add to your damage because healer's base damage is now calculated off of mind. So you no longer need to hop in between damage mode and healing mode. You're in both modes all the time. This is like a Raging Strikes for the healer. And now we have a spell called Break, and this deals unaspected magic damage with a potency of 50, and it applies a 40% heavy for 20 seconds, and it says the cast time is equal to the GCD. So either 2.5 seconds, etc., or this is an off the global cooldown ability. We then have Protect and Suna, and a new ability called Lucid Dream, which basically has the hate that you have on the enemies, refreshes your MP with a potency of 80, and lasts for 21 seconds, and is on a 2-minute cooldown. Swift Cast, which basically means an insta-cast, whatever next ability is. Eye for an Eye, which we're all very well aware of. A new ability called Affection. Now, no tooltip was available, but it did look like a recoloring of Divine Seal, and we were talking about that earlier in the White Mage video. Surecast, which, here's a change to it. While active, the next spell is cast without interruption. That's not the change, but now you're immune to sleep, stun, knockback, pulls, etc. for 10 seconds on a 30-second cooldown. So we were saying like, hey, this looks like Surecast, but they did say they're going to be adding new options into abilities or blending abilities, and I think that's actually a first case example of one that we've seen. And that's actually good because like I think of it first in PvP, but the ability to resist sleep, stun, knockback, wow, that's going to be huge. And my initial response is that actually seems pretty cool. The ability to resist sleep, stuns, knockbacks, all that seems cool. It actually makes me consider it as an option now. And then Rescue, they showed this off, the ability to pull party members to you, and that could be helpful, but I know a lot of conversations about how that's going to be used kind of in a trolly fashion. But it's still optional, and remember, we only have 5 slots, so do you really want to waste one on a troll ability? I guess I'll leave that up to you. So that's 10 abilities, and we can take 5. Now, if we look at these abilities themselves, Cleric Stance, Suna, Protect, those were White Mage abilities before 4.0. Swift Cast was a Thaumaturge ability, but it's great to see that we have access to it. Eye for an Eye, that was a Scholar ability, and that's 5. That's 5 abilities right there. Do we really have a lot of options? Yeah, okay, you might not take Cleric Stance. That opens you up for Rescue or Surecast or things like that. So, or Lucid Dreaming. Like, there's a lot of concern here that White Mage specifically isn't going to have the options available to them as opposed to the other healers. And if you go look at pre 4.0, it's pretty much the same though. You know, so people pulled White Mage's abilities in force. You would take Protect, you would take those, you would take Stone Skin. In fact, we're going to get into Stone Skin here in a minute. But those were White Mage abilities that you would learn on Conjure and you would use across all your other healers. Now, this does make it feel that White Mage doesn't have a lot of choice in the matter because to feel like a White Mage, you're going to have to be taking these abilities. The exception here is that we don't know what else White Mage is getting. These are what are moving into the cross roll and the all healers can pull from. But it's very well possible that we're going to see abilities for the White Mage that are specific to the White Mage that really make it feel like the healer that it's meant to. We don't know about the lilies, we don't know about what abilities can trigger off of them, but we do know that recast timers are shortened the more lilies you have, and so White Mage can feel probably pretty quick. And if that recast shortening applies to all your abilities, you can easily see that White Mage is going to have a continual pool of MP when it comes to lucid dreaming and things of that nature. So there's still a lot we don't know, but this I think is important, and I wanted to share it first before we dive into your comments. Alright, so here's what you guys have to say. First up, Jellybean Sugarbender writes, I didn't see any stone skin on his hotbar. I'm okay without it. I'm also kind of sick of paladins spamming it all the time. LOL. Maybe that's just something that bugs me. I think it's good as it has its place, but I wouldn't be sad to see it go. And I would be, like, in obviously Jelly, we play together, so a friend of the show, Jellybean Sugarbender, everybody. I love me some stone skin. I'm a stone skin caster. Sometimes I take it on my paladin, sometimes, but I don't actually ever do that with Jelly because I know it drives her nuts. But as a healer, though, I'll throw up stone skin on there, especially on a DPS, especially if I see one struggling. Just be able to toss a little stone skin up on them, and then that way maybe they'll be able to survive a big hit every now and then. It's just an extra damage mitigation, especially the time that it lasts, 30 minutes. So if that player doesn't get hit, well, okay, that might have been a wasted cast, but I don't have to prepare within 30 seconds. I can say, well, you know what, in the next 30 minutes, I think they're going to take a hit, and this is going to help them. So that's what I like about Stone Skin. And yes, we didn't see it on any hotbars. Does that mean it's gone? Or does that mean it's changed into something else? And then Azura Moonstar writes, I love the White Mage healer changes. More of the damage factor of it coming from Mind and Cleric stance as a buff. I loved a DPS as a healer, but I hated how it felt counterintuitive. The big reason I never healed in Final Fantasy XI was the stand there and cure. Even as a red mage, any DPS was looked down at. I'm so happy for the streamlined healers. And that's a really good point. Like, I'm excited about the damage change, and Yoshi P said he felt like he couldn't take Cleric stance out, so putting it here in cross roll and then just adding a 5% damage buff, in my mind, kind of just seems like here it's here, people, and then either at some point it's going to be changed. Personally, I don't feel like the 5% is enough to justify taking it as an option. I would have expected a 10% buff like it is today. But again, calculations and formulas are changing with that regard. But I'm happy to go in, play some healing, and seeing how damage feels. The question I guess I would follow up to the community is, does this change the mentality that the game is balanced, that healers don't have to damage? Because that was always the case. They balanced the big fights that, you know, they weren't counting in healer DPS. Does that change the fact now because healer DPS is calculated off of Mind? I'd love to know your thoughts. Personally, obviously we don't know, Yoshi P hasn't said, but for the most part, it's interesting and I'm excited about this change. Alazel2K writes, I'm excited about less stone skin and arrow clogging up my hotbar and the changes to the DPS calculations. Too early to be calling doom on White Mage since not enough yet is known. As someone who mains White Mage, I'll be sticking by the class no matter what happens. 'Tis my favorite class. Well, that's great. That's a good attitude. We don't know what is changing yet. There's still like a bunch of abilities we haven't seen. We don't know what they do. We really haven't played around with the Lily system. And so that unknown, no matter what, is going to breed speculation and concern. But the best thing we can do is really not worry about it. Play it, give our feedback, and they'll make some adjustments. This hopefully won't be like Bard and have 2 years before they take off that stupid cast bar. But regardless of that, I too am interested in how that stone is consolidated. I hope Arrow is consolidated, but Arrow, Arrow 2, Arrow 3 all had different debuffs that were applied to the target. And so I don't know if that's also getting consolidated. I hope it does. It would make sense in my mind, but Arrow 3 was also an AoE arrow. So it is what it is, right? So Lothrax writes, well, that's Protect, Stone Skin 1 and 2, Cleric Stance, Divine Seal, gone from White Mage as their own skills. I assume they'll be replaced by something. Plus, if the Lils increase casting speed, then you have 3 of them that might basically be Grease Lightning stacks, which would make White Mages, well, super fast and super strong healers at the same time. Might be interesting to see it in action, honestly. If they were really going to double down on the pure healer theme, I think they got it. Yeah, and now this could be a translation issue. I heard shortens recast timers, but if it actually makes casting speed faster, then yes, like, or heck, even both. That really doubles down on this White Mage being able to get cures off quick, being able to get cures and being able to recover those abilities faster. So obviously we won't really know until we go hands-on or we get more in depth, because there's always, you know, the translation issues that can occur. But falling back on Stone Skin 1 and 2, if they aren't there, what have they been replaced with? I'm not going to worry about it. But, you know, I'd love to know your thoughts. And finally, Tim Hisk writes, I'm really happy about the scaling spells like Stone and Arrow. DPS scaling off mind is also a very welcome change. But without knowing the full extent of what new skills and spells interact with the Lily mechanic, which reminds me of Aether Flow stacks, this really does feel like White Mage got the short end of the stick. I would say at this point I am cautiously optimistic, mainly because we're missing critical information we probably won't know until the 16th. And that's a good way to think about it. And also the Aether Flow connection with obviously Scholar is genius. I didn't even make that connection, but it does kind of have that feel, because I think we saw that you could get like 3 lilies or something like that. The difference is that as you use abilities, you gain those and then you expend them on certain other abilities, which is interesting. I don't know what the timing of that is, but it seems fascinating, and I'm really excited to get my hands on with it as well. So a general theme that we obviously are seeing here is that the people more or less feel the damage shifting to mind is a positive one, that the Lily system seems interesting and promising, even though we don't have enough information just yet. But the main concern is on the cross roll. It does feel that most of our toolkit shifted there, so what is replacing it? If we're going to be required to take Insuna, Protect, on all of that. And this more or less relates to the 4-man, because if you think about it, in a 4-man, you're the one healer. In an 8-man, there's 2 healers, and so the healers can coordinate. Hey, you take Protect, I'll take Rescue. Hey, you take Cleric Stance, I'll take Insuna. You know, things like that. There can definitely be some coordination because, okay, yeah, you got 2 healers. But I really think that hopefully we're going to learn more about White Mage, about Scholar, about Astrologian. Now, this is speculation, and this obviously... I don't have any inside information here, but let's say the Insuna cross roll ability is an AoE Insuna, but every healer does have a single target Insuna. Well, then Insuna becomes less needed because everybody has it as a part of their toolkit, and then the enhanced version is as a part of the cross roll. We see this with the tanks where Protect, and they have an AoE Protect now, and those are all both cross roll, but focusing on healers here, what if that was the case? Like, does that then make it a little bit less? Like, does, you know, I don't know. I don't have the answers for you. We're going to know more on the 16th, but I just want to thank everybody for your comments and weighing in on this, and let's have that conversation. Now, this is a hot topic, so just please be respectful for others with their opinions. We all have them. We're all fans of the game at the end of the day, and we might just come to different conclusions regarding our favorite healers. But that's just me, and this is Work2Game. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in my next. But until then, I hope you have a fantastic week, and take care.
Hey guys, Chris here. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see our next video, go ahead and click right there. If you'd like to see our vlog, click down below. The subscribe button should be right below me here, and you should see all of our contact information. Have a great day, and we will see you next time.